Welcome back. It's time for another Hot Air Sports podcast with me, Macca, and my good mate, Mahona. I see that beard starting to come back again, Aaron.
It is, mate. It is. Yeah, I don't know. COVID does weird things to us, doesn't it, mate? And I shaved it all off last week, and starting to grow it back now, mate. But still handsome as ever.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And now, before we get started this week, I've got a wee bit of a rant.
Hang on, we end with a rant. What are you starting with?
I know.
Hang on, what are you?
Normally,
you mucked me up.
I know we normally end with a rant, but this week, over the weekend, I stopped following a Yankees fan page called New York Yankees Fans after whoever administers the page wrote, "The Yankees are beyond pathetic right now. It's truly unbelievable."
Yeah,
Before I unfollowed the page, I wrote, "Fans through good times and bad. Perhaps you should rename this group New York Yankees Fans, but only when they win." Unfollowing this page. Having seen what goes on behind the scenes at MLB and at franchise level, clubs can do without fans like this. And while Yankees manager Aaron Boone has won over 100 games in each of his first two seasons, the vitriolic comments on this post calling for his head, saying he can't manage shit, are incredible. And yes, I know anything less than a championship is a failure in many Yankees fans' eyes. And I'm all for a bit of constructive criticism, but some of the crap we all see on social media is pure hate. And is it surprising so much hate is spewed out on social media when we listen to the so-called leader of the free world spewing out hate speech left, right and centre? And sadly, this goes on. I, for one, am trying to rid my vocabulary of the H word. And from now on, I have an extreme dislike for Manchester United and the Boston Red Sox. I do not H them. And I would implore fans of all codes and sports, please support your own team in the best way possible. And the more we hate on opposition teams, players, coaches, fans, etc., just continues in normal daily living. And if we can each do our best to remove hate from our lives, the better the world will be. Rant over.
Good man, good man. Yeah, there is way too much of it, eh? I mean, it's okay. I mean, look, you know, you and I hate Manchester United, but I don't want to destroy everyone that supports them. I don't want Old Trafford to be bombed. I don't want to. I just, you know, it's just a rivalry. I mean, when it comes to a sporting rivalry, the hate between fans, I don't know whether, you know, we should define it as hate. It's rivalry, you know.
Well, there is banter. Don't get me wrong. There is banter.
Yeah.
And that's fine, you know. But man, there's a fine line between banter and hate speech, and it's that hate speech that I would like to see get out of everything.
I think the jump here is like, if we take it back to the football one, because basically that is as tribal as it gets. When you look at Liverpool and Manchester United, it's when Liverpool travel to Manchester United and they sing about Hillsborough, and the Manchester United fans travel to Liverpool and we sing about the Munich air disaster. Those are the sorts of things that you should just, you know, that's hatred, mate. That's hatred, isn't it? So put all that aside. It's okay to dislike the opposition team and give them a bit of grief, going, you know, but yeah, like you say, hatred, mate. There's just no space, no place for it, is there, in the world or sport?
Quite right. But on a better note, the mighty Vodafone Warriors, mate.
My place was very loud, very passionate on Saturday night, mate. Even the missus was amongst it. She watched the whole game with me.
Crikey.
Saturday night, she was like, can it be like this every Saturday night? I was like, I wish it could, love. I wish it could. Top 8, here we come, Macca. What do you reckon? Maybe?
Ooh, got a bit of a tough schedule over the next few weeks.
The Warriors are on a roll, mate. We've won 4 of our last 5 matches, and the only loss we've had in those games is to the runaway leader, Penrith Panthers. They won 36-6. What a great result on Saturday night. Their second home of Tamworth, and it was by far their most complete performance of the season. NRL great Cooper Cronk called it a purely dominant performance, and the teams just above them on the ladder will be looking over their shoulders, that's for sure, especially Manly, who aren't looking too flash at the moment. 2 Roger Tuivasa-Sheck tries, as well as Peter Hiku, Jazz Tavanga, and Adam Pompey also scored 2 tries. They were the standouts for the Warriors on a night when really the whole team stood up and played well. The Warriors finished with a tough run, like you said, Eels, Sharks, Raiders, Sea Eagles, final 4 weeks. However, The Eels aren't doing too well at the moment. The Sharks, they had a win in the weekend. They've got the Knights this week, but, if we can beat that, that could be a 4-point game. They're the ones who are really trying to hunt down the Sharks. The Raiders, they're a bit up and down as well, and the Seagulls, once again, up and down. So, we're playing like a top 8 side, no doubt about it. A very good top 8 side at that. Title contenders, maybe. Title contenders. Well, 2020's been a very, very strange year, mate. So who knows? I'll run through the results. Okay, so Eels lost to the Bunnies 38-0 on Thursday night. That was a massive result. The Eels were top of the table for so long. Blanked 38-0 after they blanked the Storm last week. They got a taste of their own medicine against the on-fire Bunnies, who have scored close to 100 points in their last 2 games. Latrell Mitchell out for the season with a ruptured hamstring in that one. The Dragons 10 lost to the Titans 14. Titans coming back from 10 points to 0 to win that one. The Roosters 58 beat the Broncos 12. Oh, the Broncos. The Broncos playing more like ponies. Looked like a training game for the Roosters. They bring back Sonny Bill Williams next week because they really need him. And maybe Lionel Messi the week after that. I think they can afford him under the cap.
Yeah, absolutely.
While the Broncos Annabelle's horribleness continues, they finally got rid of their coach Anthony Seibold in the week. It didn't make any difference. They lost 58-12. Saturday, Warriors, mighty Warriors, 36 beat the Knights 6. Sharks 28 beat the Cowboys 12. I was cheering the Cowboys for that one because if they'd won it, we'd only be 2 points behind. Panthers 30 beat the West Tigers 6. The Panthers just keep keeping on. 11 straight wins in a row now for Ivan Cleary's Panthers, way out in front at the top of the table. And yesterday, Storm 30 beat the Seagulls 6, and the Raiders 34 beat the Bulldogs 20. Looking at the ladder, the Warriors are still 4 points behind in pursuit of the Sharks. We play them in 2 weeks. As I say, that'll be a 4-point game. The Sharks, though, finished with the Knights, Warriors, and then the Roosters and the Raiders. So they've got 2 really tough games to finish. So if we win 3 of our next 4, mate, by my calculations, we can make the top 8. How about that? Sitting in 9th equal place on 12 points. All the teams around us are losing. And the Cronulla Sharks are the ones we're trying to chase down. They're on 16. We're on 12. And like I say, we've got them in a couple of weeks. Win that one, we're in the hunt, mate. We're in the hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite a turnaround, hasn't it? As you say, over the last 5 weeks, 4 wins in those 5 games, and that narrow loss to the runaway Penrith Panthers. So anything could happen really over the next 4 weeks.
Absolutely, mate. It's not really surprising as far as spirit goes. I mean, when you look at the way that the Kiwis have performed in the last few years, it's always on tour that they do best. And these guys have been away for 2 or 3 months now. They're getting to, living in each other's back pockets, apparently. All the people I heard Todd Payton, who's doing very well as coach, saying that all the guys with the kids are getting together. All the people without the kids, all those guys are getting together, and they're creating really good bonds amongst that team. So, and it's really showing on the field. And it's amazing how much confidence does, man. I mean, you look at someone like Roger Tuivasa-Sheck 3 or 4 weeks ago, he just looked like he was just a broken man. And now, a couple of tries, a couple of great performances later, and he's got a big smile on his face. And he's playing like the champion we know he is, mate. So, wow, what a season in the NRL. If these guys can make the 8, mate, no one's going to want to play us either.
Yeah, well, I mean, the news that Todd Payton's about to be named as the new North Queensland coach, he's done a hell of a job with the Warriors after, when he took over from Stephen Kearney. It was, for a lot of people that don't follow the game closely, like myself, it was pretty much Todd who?
Yeah, no, he was a good player back in his day. I didn't really know a lot about his coaching credentials, but mate, he is really showing, hasn't he, in such a short time with so many challenges that he can handle it. He's up for the job, and he's got them playing a really good style of football. I love the offloads. It's like rugby league's a fairly simple game, and if you just truck it up the field all the time without trying any offloads and just play a simple game, you'll do okay. But if you take the odd chance, offloads for us just means so much. It just changes the way we play. Playing second phase and Roger out the back, we're just so much more potent. And Jazz Tavanga, man, let me just mention him again. 5'9", 5'10". He must weigh 90 kgs. He's playing in the forwards, playing against guys way bigger than himself. Every time he goes up, there's 3 guys around him, and he's just seems to offload. He's great at the post-contact meters, makes 40, 50 tackles a game. Just an absolute champion, mate. So, Yeah, really, really happy with the way the Warriors are going at the moment, mate. Really, really happy.
Excellent, and good to see the Mad Butcher screaming his head off from Waiheke Island on his Facebook posts as well. So he's obviously pretty happy about the whole thing.
Love the Butch, mate. Love the Butch. He's honestly though, mate. If you follow him on Facebook, go and give him a like. The Mad Butcher.
I do.
Christ, mate. The guy goes to bed about after midnight. He's up at 5 o'clock in the morning feeding the seagulls outside his house. The guy never sleeps. I mean, he's just full of energy, and it's just go back to your earlier rant as well, the hate thing. That's something that the Butcher has never done. He's always like, absolutely. It's always beautiful. It's always beautiful. Even when the Warriors have been at their lowest of the low, he's always just said, oh, well, good luck for next week. He's just the most positive man, and he's a good positive spark in my day every day. Love him.
Quite right. Well, I've picked up on another little league tidbit over the last couple of weeks, which I'm surprised you hadn't picked up on, Aaron. With almost 2 decades since the Johns brothers, Andrew and Matt, appeared in the NRL, there's another pair of Johns siblings doing the same in the competition. With Cooper Johns, a 21-year-old halfback, he made his premiership debut for the Storm last week after older brother Jack broke into the NRL last month for Souths, both sons of now media star Matthew. Jack, a 23-year-old second rower, has played a handful of games for the Rabbits now, and if the brothers can keep their positions, their respective teams face off when South Sydney hosts the Storm in round 17. And when asked how he would feel if their paths do cross, Matty Johns might find himself having to analyse their games in his various media roles. He said, I'll just give it to them and say they're not as good as their father.
Oh, Matthew Johns.
Yeah.
No, they're handy players too, man. They're handy players. Not surprising, really.
Pretty good genes.
Considering the DNA. Cheeky little lads too. So that's not surprising either, really, is it?
Yeah, I saw Maddie said that one of the older one, Jack, is fairly quiet and unassuming, and if the TV cameras roll up, he'll sort of go to the next room. But Cooper, I think, is a bit of a chip off the old block. He loves the media attention, and as you say, he's a cheeky little halfback.
I actually think Cooper John's out of contract as well next year. So it'd be interesting to see who picks them up, whether they get picked up for the same side or whether they will be playing against each other. But I'll look forward to that. Johns on Johns again.
I did notice. I did notice in the article
Matthew played for the Sharks.
Yeah, I did notice in the article that I read that over their large careers, Matthew and Andrew only actually faced each other once. Of course, because obviously for most of the time they were both playing for their beloved Newcastle. It would have been when Matty was at the Sharks, I'm guessing.
At the Sharks, it must have been. That could have only been, and he was only there for a couple of seasons. So I wonder how that went. Wonder who knocked who out. But I mean, there's quite a few of the second generation players coming through now. It's always fun to see, isn't it? And in the rugby as well, of course. With the Satutu and all those, there's quite a few sons coming through, and a Ronnie Clark's son as well, of course. Michael Jones' son, Nico Jones, will come through. So second generation, just making me feel very, very old. Really.
Quite right, and continuing the rugby theme. In Super Rugby, the Brumbies have continued their run at the top of the table, beating the Western Force 31-14, while New South Wales held on for a narrow 6-point win over their southern neighbours, the Rebels, 38-32. The Brumbies have stretched their lead at the top to 7 points over the Reds, who had the bye, while the Waratahs now nervously wait for the result in next week's final round between the Rebels and the winless Force to see if they'll hold on to third to qualify for the semi-final. Only 1 week left now, and the Brumbies will have a break, while the Reds will play either the Waratahs or the Rebels in the semi, with the Melbourne side needing to win by 4 or more points over the Force to make the top 3, which you would probably expect to happen, given that the Western Force have not had a win in 7 games so far in the season. We had the Chiefs; they've got the Western Force.
I back the Chiefs against the Force, mate.
Yes, me too. Yeah, absolutely. Across the other side of the world in the UK, the Scarlets, who beat the Dragons 41-20, they narrowed the gap at the top of Pool B in the Guinness Pro 14 to just 4 points after leaders Edinburgh lost to bitter rivals Glasgow 15-3. but narrowly missed out on a playoff spot when Munster secured their 49-12 win over Connacht. I'm never quite sure how to say that.
I think it's Connacht. Connacht.
Yeah. Leinster continued their command of Pool A, accounting for Ulster 28-10 and Belfast, but the Northerners were far enough ahead of Glasgow to secure the second qualifying spot in the pool. The semi-finals will see Leinster hosting Munster. That'll be a crunch game, while Ulster will visit the Scottish capital to play Edinburgh. In England's Gallagher Premiership, Exeter stay in top spot after thumping Worcester 59-7, while Sale Sharks moved ahead of Bristol after beating them 40-7. In other results, Harlequins beat 6th placed Northampton to narrow the gap between the two, and the mighty Gloucester. You knew I was going to support an English team, so Gloucester's the team. They held off Leicester to, I don't know, I like their shirts, to win a scorefest 46-30. How would you ever believe a game between two English sides would have 76 points? Yeah. The top four is Exeter. Yeah, top four is Exeter, Sale, Bristol, and Bath, with Wasps 5th and Northampton 6th, sitting in the Champions Cup qualifying places. And in the most important game of the weekend, Greytown secured a spot in next week's final of the Wairarapa Bush Premier competition after beating Eketahuna 22-18 in a tight contest. And they'll meet Marist in next week's Moose Carpenny Cup final after they beat Martinborough 20 points to 10. So it's all on in Greytown.
A little bit more going on in Greytown than there is in Auckland. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing to report on the local sports front because nothing's been happening for the last 2 or 3 weeks, mate. But I am under the understanding that football and some form of rugby league will be starting again this weekend. No idea what sort of whether I'll be able to go out and see it or what the story is. We're still sort of 2.5, not quite sure where we can go. If we better have our masks on. I wasn't sure, actually. You know, we're on a Zoom call, but should I have my mask on for this? Not really sure.
Don't think so.
No, I don't think you can catch anything I've got. And anyway, they'll take away from the good looks. And I hear that's getting us lots of views, especially with the ladies. So, you know.
A couple of big football games over the weekend.
There was.
Community Shield, signalling the start of the new season. Sadly, the result didn't quite go our way. I actually thought we played quite well. But Arsenal actually looked quite good as well. Be interesting to see. I mean, we've still got another month left before the transfer window shuts, and I'm still hoping like hell that we'll get Thiago Alcantara.
I hope we get him. He just looked amazing in that Champions Cup final, mate. And we sort of missed him. I mean, a player like him in the Charity Shield, didn't we? I thought when Cater came on, he made a bit of a difference because he started driving at the defence, you know, and they didn't quite know what to do. And I thought poor old Ryan Brewster got handed a bit of a hospital pass. Come on with 1 minute to go, don't kick the ball and then take a penalty. I mean, that's a lose-lose, really, isn't it? Even if you make the penalty, they go, well, you should have got the penalty. So should we loan that guy? What do you think? I mean, he scored 2 goals in the pre-season. There is talk that there's 10 clubs after him, 6 or 7 in the Championship, or 3 or 4 in the Premiership. I'd loan him out. I heard Sheffield United might be a good spot for him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because there's been plenty of talk around Divock Origi moving. You know, he's obviously at a stage in his career where he needs to be playing first-team football if his career is going to move forward. And
absolutely.
Yeah, so whether he moves on, because, I mean, what is it, 38 games in a season, the front three of Salah, Firmino and Mane are going to play.
They can't play them all.
Probably 35 of those. You know, they can't play every game, but, you know, you've still got Xherdan Shaqiri, who's still currently injured with that calf problem. You know, if he comes right, he's another option up front. And also
Minamino,
who scored his first
goal.
And
he scored a goal.
So, interesting to see. I think we've still got plenty of options. And, of course, Harry Wilson is back from his loan at Bournemouth. So, I don't really...
We're listening to offers for him, though, aren't we? I bet they have to be over 20 million is what I've heard. We're listening to offers. There are a couple of teams interested. I've heard Villa might be interested in him. So it will be interesting to see whether he gets a go. Is he good enough really to take one of those top 3 places? Maybe not, but I mean, like you say, I don't think our top three, the front three, can play every single game. I mean, what if one of them gets injured? You know, that means one of those backups has to play all those games. So, you know, do we want Origi playing 30 games, starting 20, 30 games? I don't. I mean, we need better players. So, yeah, it's a tough one, mate. It's a tough one. We're not doing a lot of work. It's been a bit hard. Lionel Messi announces his decision to leave Barcelona. He put the sovereign wealth funds of Manchester City and PSG on notice. What do you make of this? Where's Messi going to end up, mate?
Oh, I think after it's all said and done, I think you'll still see him wearing a Barcelona shirt this year.
You reckon?
Yeah, I
think he's gone too far down the track now. I don't really do. I think, you know, because he could have just sat on his hands and done nothing, and there would have been presidential elections in about a month or two. That guy would have been ousted. Probably Ronald Koeman would be gone, and he'd be back, and it'd be all fine. But by saying this, it's almost like I don't care who's president. I want out. I'm pretty sure he's going to end up somewhere else. Where he ends up, there's probably only 2 or 3 sides. I suppose it's going to be caught up in whether, because his contract, just to recap for people that aren't aware, his contract had a £600 million buyout, which obviously no one is going to pay. However, there was a clause in his contract that if he wanted out on a free transfer, that he had to do so before the end of the season. Of course, COVID stuffed up the season, so there's going to be legal ramifications backwards and forwards between Messi's team and the club as to whether he can get out of that. I think ultimately, if he doesn't want to be at the club, they won't want him there. The question of whether they'll get a transfer fee and whether anyone can afford his wages. If it's just wages, there's probably 3 or 4 clubs. If it's a transfer fee and wages, probably only 1 or 2. So
yeah, I think the only 2 realistic options probably are PSG and Manchester City. When all's said and done, I had to laugh at the weekend when Jurgen Klopp was asked about it, and he just goes, "Oh yeah, good player, but yeah, too much wages."
I know. I heard him say. I heard someone else suggest that we'd swap them Wijnaldum for him, because they're looking at Wijnaldum maybe, because now Ronald Koeman's in charge over there. I don't know whether I'd do that, to be fair. Look, I think it's as great as Messi is as a player. He's 34. I mean, he will be great, but you have to build a team around him. You know, you can't. He can't be a peripheral player if you play Messi, because he doesn't do any of the backtracking. So, if Manchester City go after him, yes, he could be great for their. Well, he'll be great, but will he be great for their team? You know, I think the focus could be in the wrong places. And if you're someone like Kevin De Bruyne or Phil Foden or one of the guys that likes Phil Foden especially, who's been waiting so long for a chance, all of a sudden you're not going to get a chance again. And so it could really upset the dynamics of those teams. So really, this whole Messi thing hasn't really got me that worried, to be fair.
No, I'm the same. And I mean, the other thing about Manchester City is if he goes there, I mean, he's a perfect replacement for David Silva, isn't he? Who's now gone to Real Sociedad. So,
true.
Yeah, it's the old saying is if Messi played in the Premier League, how would he do on a Tuesday night in Stoke? Now, I know Stoke's not in the Premier League anymore, but, maybe that's how would he do on a Tuesday night at Crystal Palace.
Or Sheffield United or somewhere like that. Yeah, exactly. It will be interesting to see. It'll be fascinating to see, won't it? I also heard a rumour that Manchester City had offered 3 players.
Yes.
Bernardo Silva, and the striker, Gabriel Jesus.
Yeah.
3 players for Messi, which would be a nice little start for a rebuild for Barcelona. Crazy stuff. The only other thing that I can remember that's going on in football at the moment interests me is Harry Maguire, found guilty of assaulting police and bribery in Greece. And
don't you know who I am?
Don't you know who I am? I'm the captain of United. I've got lots of money. Promptly appeals, and his conviction has been quashed because he appealed. That's the way that it works in Greece. He said he'd been worried for his life, thought his sister had been drugged and they were being kidnapped. But when he told the story, it was kind of strange. It was almost, I don't know whether it was as convincing as Prince Andrew's story about going to Pizza Express. It was a little bit like that. He didn't mention not sweating or anything. But there was this bit where we were in the van. It got surrounded by guys, surrounded by men. We didn't know they were police. They were plain clothes. So it's like he just don't me a shut. And he's saying that they weren't speaking English, so he couldn't hear them, but they were saying, "Oh, that's going to be the end of your football career." And then he ran away from the van while his sister and all of them were still in the van. He said to ring his manager. I wanted to ring my manager, tell him to send someone to help us. Just like, what's going on? It just sounds so dodgy. So yes, he is appealing. The wheels of justice obviously move pretty fast in Greece. They got it done in a week. Tried to get him done. Suspended sentence 24 months. He's appealed it, so it will be back in court. But this is just going to go on and on and on, and I'm just going to keep laughing about it.
Absolutely. There was a rumor going around that somebody overheard a policeman who arrested him saying, "My word, you have an enormously large forehead."
It can't possibly be true. Can't possibly be true. No way.
Well, it is true that he has an enormously large forehead, but
he does have
whether somebody actually said that or not is another story. The only other game of note over the weekend,
the A-League final.
They won another A-League title after defeating Melbourne City 1-0. Goal coming from fullback mullet head Ryan Grant in extra time. So I think that's 5 titles now for Sydney. And
they've got the biggest wage bill by some distance, mate. And it's not really surprising, is it?
It was an interesting thing happened last week too. I picked up on the watching the back page last week. Grant Bremner has been named the new coach of Melbourne Victory, but the previous week 3 times he was quoted as saying, "Yeah, I've been offered the job, but I'm not taking it." And then suddenly a week later he's taking it. It's quite weird. I don't know what's going on there. I might have to do a bit more investigation to see what happened there. But
that'd be like Todd Payton turning around and saying he's taking the Warriors job. So, what? Huh?
Yeah, but Grant Bremner, great player in his day for Melbourne Victory. The Scotsman, he played 6, 7, 8 seasons for Melbourne Victory, and has obviously now done his coaching badges and is the new manager for Melbourne Victory. So
maybe they just moved the decimal. Maybe they just moved the decimal point just to the right. Yeah.
They're not short of. They're not there, but that Sydney and Melbourne Victory are the Sydney Roosters of the A-League.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Salary cap. What salary cap? Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
All right. What about America? Should we go to America? Should we go to American sports? They are still going on. There was a bit of a break in American sports over the past week because of the shooting of another unarmed black man, and the NBA took 2 or 3 days off and said that they just were sick of it, weren't going to play anymore. Got on a conference call with Barack Obama yesterday and are back on. Heard a lot of people criticizing the NBA and the players that didn't want to play in the NBA, and also a number of baseballers that didn't want to play, a number of footballers in the Major League Soccer. I've heard people criticizing them. I'd urge them to shut up. We're not living in America. We're not black. I don't know. I mean, I can look from the outside looking in and sort of try and understand the struggle, but I don't have any idea, And if these are, people would say, "Oh, look, these are they always bring money into the equation, don't they? These people that are making this equation, they go, this is the rich and powerful black people, and how they're disassociated from the general black population. These are people that still have black friends, still got to drive to the game, still got to do, I think people lose sight of things. Once people make the NBA, they just sort of think, oh, they're up on a pedestal, they're no longer part of the general society or something. These are still human beings.
Any of those professional sports in the States, you see it, and I see it a lot in baseball too. These guys, they think that they go and play the game of baseball, and then the rest of the time they just sit around playing on their PlayStation.
Yeah. Waiting for the money to roll in, just watching their bank account. Yeah,
they're counting the money. I had to laugh. Well, not laugh. It was a truth that came home. And it related to my rant earlier on, where Trump basically told them to get off their asses and start playing again, or else what, I don't know. But it took a former president to actually get them back. Barack Obama making a plea to the players to get back in playing, and obviously they responded to that one a little more positively than the ultimatum handed down by the current idiot in charge.
Absolutely. And one thing I did notice yesterday was one of the coaches wearing a mask that said vote on it, which was very interesting as well. They said they did a survey amongst the players and only 20% of them are registered to vote.
Yeah.
Which is, so even once they've elevated themselves to that NBA level, once again, it shows they are just the same as the general public. Get out there and vote. You want change in your country, go and do it. And I think them doing that, just stopping the playoffs in their tracks by that statement, people can say, if it was the final, the NBA's, they wouldn't have done it. Well, who's to say? It made a ripple, didn't it, mate? It made a ripple, and it has to start somewhere. So anyway, yesterday they did play basketball, and Milwaukee Bucks already through the finals. They've beaten the Orlando Magic 4-1 in their playoff series. The Toronto Raptors already beaten the Brooklyn Nets. They played the Celtics in the next round. The Celtics, after beating the Philadelphia 76ers 4-0 in their playoff series. And the Miami Heat beat the Indiana Pacers. And as I said earlier, they are going to play the Bucks in the second round. So that's Celtics, Raptors, Bucks, and Heat in the Eastern Conference semis. And in the NBA Western Conference bracket, the LA Lakers yesterday beat the Portland Trail Blazers 4-1 in that series. And they are either going to play the Rockets or the Thunder. That series still going. The Rockets 3, Oklahoma 2. So there's another game today. That could be wrapped up today if the Rockets win that. In the other series, the Los Angeles Clippers are 3-2 ahead of the Dallas Mavericks. The winner of that plays the winner of the Nuggets Jazz, and the Denver Nuggets are currently behind the Utah Jazz 2-3. And as I say, the winner of that will play the Clippers or the Mavs. Games on in that Western Conference bracket today, I understand. So yeah, when I say, okay, so from the Eastern Conference, looking at the Eastern Conference, I reckon the Bucks are probably the hot favourites there to go through. And in the other conference, you're looking at the Lakers, maybe the Clippers, but the Dallas Mavericks could be one of those smokies there with Luka Doncic absolutely lighting it up over there. So that's the NBA. Just quickly, in the NHL, still playing in the Stanley Cup. In the East, the Philadelphia Flyers, this is the conference semifinals. Philadelphia Flyers are tied with New York Islanders 1-0 in that series. And the Tampa Bay Lightning lead the Boston Bruins 3-1 in that. That's the East. And in the West, the Vegas Golden Knights are tied with the Vancouver Canucks 1-1. And the Dallas Stars lead the Colorado Avalanche 2-1.
Yes, crossing to baseball now. And yes, been some interesting results over the last few weeks. And of course, today or tomorrow in the United States is the trade deadline. So that will be interesting to see any big names making some moves. I think the biggest of name and he's not really a big name, Tommy La Stella has gone from the Los Angeles Angels to fellow divisional rivals Oakland Athletics, which is an interesting trade. The Angels obviously thinking they're pretty much out of it, which they are. They're gone. In the West, Oakland lead the West 2.5 games ahead of Houston, with Seattle a further 7 games back, tied with Texas, and then the Angels 10 games behind Oakland Athletics. So yeah, they're pretty much out with really only about 20 games to go before the playoffs start at the beginning of October. American League Central, it's a tight race there. You've got the Chicago White Sox, Cleveland Indians, and Minnesota Twins, all within 1.5 games of each other. So that's going to be a tight race all the way down to the end, with Detroit still in with a show. They're only 3.5 games or 2.5 games back from Minnesota, but Kansas City also pretty much out of it. In the East, the Tampa Bay have shocked everybody over the last couple of weeks. They've rocketed to the top of the East with a 24-11 record, leading the Yankees by 4 games, with Toronto a further half game back, Baltimore and Boston Red Sox pretty much out of it now. In the National League, the Atlanta Braves have got a 2-game lead over the Philadelphia Phillies in what will be a tight race. Also only a half game back is the surprising Miami Marlins. who are now run, of course, by one of the greatest baseball players of all time, Derek Jeter. Mets and Washington Nationals, last year's champions. There's only 5.5 games separating all 5 teams in the National League East, so that division could go right down to the wire as well, especially with the expanded playoffs this year. Normally only 8 teams in the playoffs, but this year it's basically doubled to 16. So the top 2 in each division with a couple of wild cards get in. So it's a opportunity for sides that aren't performing so well now to still get amongst the playoff action.
And are those five game series when they get through, or are those 7 games?
No, it's basically it's the one will play in each division. One will play 8, 2 will play 7, and so on. And the team with the better record will host all 3 games in that series.
Okay.
So effectively, at the moment, if Tampa Bay finish top in the American League and they play, perhaps it's the maybe the Minnesota Twins are the 8th qualifying team. So Tampa Bay hosts all 3 games.
3 home games.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so cool. And so that's the first round.
That's the first round.
That'll take them down to 8 teams. And then when they do the 8 teams, that goes back to the normal format, does it? Like the
back
standard
to the normal 7-game series,
Yeah.
Okay. In the National League Central, the Chicago Cubs have got a 3.5 game lead over St. Louis, who, of course, have missed out a lot of games with positive COVID tests, but they're back in action again now. Further game back is the Milwaukee Brewers, with Cincinnati and Pittsburgh picking up the rest of that division. Los Angeles Dodgers are screaming ahead of everybody else in the West. They've got a 26-10 record at the moment. And they're 5 games ahead of San Diego, who are playing some good baseball at the moment. Followed by the Rockies, then San Francisco Giants, and sadly, holding up the rest of that division is the Arizona Diamondbacks with a 14-21 record. They're pretty much out of playoff contention. They've had a wretched last 10 games, going 1-9 over those last 10 games. So, yes, hard work ahead for Torey Lovello and the team. But, maybe I think it's time to focus on next season for some of those clubs already. And I watch 5-6 games a week on MLB TV. I'm lucky if I'm 1 or 2 games a week at the moment. It's just so hard to get interested in this.
Without the crowd, was it crowd list?
Without the crowds, with only 60-game season, a member of staff or one of the team has positive test, and suddenly that team's not playing for a week. It's just it's not the same.
No, it's not the same. It's completely different.
Nothing.
I think
at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, baseball's one of those sports, man, where it's just always there. It's a bit like horse racing, It's just always there. And I think it could be a bit like that. I think once you get to the playoffs, your interest you'll be back into it. It's just when you have to go through this to get to that. It's a bit like that in the Champions League as well. When you got the group stage games and they're just like, oh God, get us to the knockout.
Exactly.
I'm sure your interest will pick up again, and hopefully we get crowds next year. God,
absolutely. Anyway, moving on, across the Tasman, a win in the final race of the weekend saw Kiwi driver Scott McLaughlin maintain his lead in the Supercars Championship after 2 awful qualifying efforts. Saw him languishing in 7th and 6th places, respectively, in the first 2 races over the weekend in Townsville. McLaughlin's closest rival in the championship, Aussie Jamie Whincup, won the first 2 races of the weekend. And despite Scotty's win in race 3, he's narrowed the gap at the top of the table to 123 points. So still quite a gap there, but not a great weekend for Scotty. Fellow Kiwi Shane Van Gisbergen had a wretched weekend, and he's 4th in the championship now behind Chaz Mostert. But brighter news in the US, Kiwi racer Scott Dixon recorded his 50th career IndyCar Series win in St. Louis, and after a 5th in this morning's second race, still leads the overall championship. Dixon bounced back from the disappointment of a runner-up finish at Indianapolis last week to take the checkered flag for the 4th time in 8 races this season and take a massive step towards a 6th career championship. After that win, his 50th, as I mentioned, is now good enough to put him 3rd all-time between legendary drivers AJ Foyt, and he's now only 2 wins behind Mario
Andretti.
2 massive names in motorsport in the States. So, I mean, that just goes to show, I mean, it follows up from my point, last week when we were talking about, lack of recognition in the Hellbergs and that sort of thing. This guy just does it season in, season out, and just gets nominated every year, sometimes makes finals. He won it once when he won the Indy 500, but what can you do?
The guy's a fair dinkum champion. I watched that game. I watched that race yesterday. I don't watch a lot of motor racing, but I'd recorded the Charity Shield and it finished, and I was in a little bit of a shitty mood. So I turned on the radio, and I was like, "Oh, cool, Scott Dixon will be racing," and he was 3rd, I think, when I turned it on. They had a pit stop. He came out of that pit stop in 2nd. There was another safety. Oh no, then they came in for another pit stop. His team did it absolutely perfectly. He came out in 1st.
Wasn't that pit stop fantastic?
Oh, mate, like 4 or 5 seconds, just so fast. And then Takuma Sato, the Japanese driver who beat him last week, came out, and his car was just going crazy fast, gaining about 2 or 3, like half a second every lap on Scott Dixon. Scott Dixon was coming up to lap traffic, but he didn't want to pass the lap traffic because it could slow him down, mean that he's vulnerable to passing. So it was all about driving slow enough to not pass the car in front, but fast enough to not have the guy behind you pass him. And it was like the guy, mate, it was just, and they were going, this guy is the master. All the commentators were saying he's the master. He knows exactly what he's doing. And when he crossed the line, he was just that much behind that one. And the guy is just a legend. And when you consider, when you've been as old as us and you've seen people grow up, can you still remember that time out at Pukekohe when he crashed the car? Yeah. And he got out of the car, he was like 14, and he had like a pillow strapped to his ass. Can you still remember that? It was so funny. He had freckles, he's a little chubby, little redhead kid. Yep. Crashed this car and gets out and he's got a pillow. I'll never ever forget that. From where he started to where he is now, mate, the guy's just a champion, isn't he? Fair dinkum champion,
Yes, quite right. And I talked last week about the ABL, the possibility of having a group over here. That has now been confirmed, and it will be the Adelaide Giants, the Brisbane Bandits, the Geelong Korea team, and the Tuatara will be playing their pool almost entirely in Auckland. I'm hoping that we might be able to get a game or 2 down in Wellington of a weekend. So we'll still remain.
If not, you'll have to come up. You'll have to come up my way, mate.
I'll definitely be coming up for a weekend series. Don't you worry about that. We'll
beautiful.
Up there with brass knobs on. And I see over the weekend, Manny Ramirez has signed for the Sydney Blue Sox. It was talked about that he might be signing for the Auckland Tuatara, and Tuatara apparently presented him with a pretty good package, which he was keen on signing for, but just, I think, decided to go for the bigger market in Sydney. So might be good for the Tuatara, might not be. Manny's got a bit of a reputation about Manny being Manny. So maybe it might be better for team morale to maybe have him playing for Sydney Blue Sox. So it's a shame we won't get to see him play in New Zealand, obviously, because the Sydney Blue Sox are in the Australian pool, and so we won't be seeing him over here. But still a couple of big names in the offing for the Tuatara, hopefully, and if they can pull those off, it would be great to see. I think there were rumours flying around that former Cy Young winner and Seattle fan favourite Felix Hernandez. Really,
the king.
Tuatara have been in touch with him. I mean, he's with the Braves at the moment, but he's not been playing. So, and with no minor league baseball, he's been out of the game.
Wow.
He's keen to still continue playing. I mean, the guy's only 33. It was 19 when he broke into MLB. That just goes to show how young he was when he first broke in, and of course won the Cy Young Award in 2010. Has thrown a perfect Is not a
And
perfect.
carried the Mariners.
Hitter.
Absolutely carried the Mariners for a decade, mate.
Oh, absolutely.
He's just an absolute legend of a player, and he's the sort of guy you would want around your clubhouse as well, man. He's a real team player, you know, I mean, he is just looked up to in such high regard in Seattle. They regard him as, you know, their own there. And, oh, man. See, that's the thing in baseball. There must be opportunities to grab some of those. Well, when I say veteran, 33, that's not old at all in baseball.
Yeah, exactly.
That's your peak. But you would think that there would be quite a few opportunities to pick up some of these sort of more veteran players for teams like you know, teams down here to pick up those sorts of players. I mean, especially because it's a world game. They're playing all over the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, seeing someone like Felix Hernandez out at North Harbour Stadium, thank you. Hey, that'd be amazing. God.
Yes, you'd be wearing your Mariners shirt that day.
Damn right, mate. Damn straight. Ichiro Suzuki on the back.
Yeah. And,
maybe we can get him. Ichiro. We need a lead-off batter.
The other rumour is that Josh Colmenter may return for a third season, the former Diamondbacks and Braves pitcher, who was just outstanding last year both years he's been here. He pitched really well, but last year he was just really on the top of his game. And, of course, pitched that final or penultimate game against Brisbane, which qualified them for the playoffs last season. So it would be great to have Colmenter back. There's also a possibility of former Toronto Blue Jays pitcher and Scott Richmond coming down to play for the Tuatara as well. He qualifies for New Zealand with a Kiwi father, even though he chose to play for Canada in his international career. So with if they had Hernandez, Colmenter and Richmond as their first three, with young Kiwi pitcher Kyle Glagoski as the fourth, that's a hell of a rotation.
Wow, that's phenomenal. No, that'd be fantastic to see, mate. I'm really looking forward to going and seeing some baseball this year. Really looking forward to it, especially after this year.
Quite right. Right. Well, it must be time for the Greyfriars Motel top 5.
Oh, top 5. All right, today's top 5. We were going to have a guest on the show, weren't we, Macca? Our little Scottish and golfing mate, Martin Reed, but unfortunately he's tied up with some errands over there on the other side of the ditch. But we did this top 5 for him, so we're going to have to get him to do a top 5 for us when we get him on our podcast on this top 5 favorite golfers. Now, you and I aren't big golfing fans, but I've watched a bit of golf in my time, played a little bit, badly, watched it better. So we'll start. Shall we start with your top 5, mate? Number 5.
My top 5. As you said, neither of us are massive golf fans, so we've probably got some interesting.
Bear with us.
I know. In my top 5, there's probably only one of these players that you would call a great player. All the rest have been picked for various reasons.
I've got 2 great players, I think. The others,
the first of mine, and I don't really know a lot about him. I only know that he's American, and he's in my top 5 just because of his great name. So my number 5 is Fuzzy Zeller. Good old Fuzzy.
Oh, good old Fuzzy. Does he? Yes, he does. Fuzzy does. Yes, he does. What he? Yeah, interesting guy.
I thought, given the fact that I put him in my top 5 just for his name, that I wasn't going to do any research on him and just talk about his great name. So there you go. Fuzzy Zeller's my number 5.
Okay, I can't tell you a lot about Fuzzy either, other than to say he made the fried chicken comment about the Tiger Woods, didn't he?
That's right.
Remember Tiger Woods won the Masters. So I do remember that about Fuzzy Zeller. He's a wee bit racist too. So
just a tiny bit.
You're number 5, not for the racist reasons, not for the golfing reasons so much, just because of the funny name. Fuzzy Zeller, love it. Okay. Well, I'm going for Shooter McGraw as my number 5 now. Even Shooter McGraw, what a player, though. No, my number 5, I'm taking it dead serious. Dead serious, and this guy's pretty serious. Pretty serious guy. In fact, some people say he doesn't have much of a personality at all. Like, Sir Robert James Charles. Bob Charles. He's, of course, left-handed golfer, one of the most successful left-handed golfers of all time. He won more than 70 titles, beating his age twice in tournament play. As a 71-year-old, he's still fit as a fiddle. He was born in Carterton, in the Wairarapa district, not too far away. Yeah, not too far away from where you are, mate. And he lived in Masterton, where he worked as a bank teller. He won the New Zealand Open in Hiratonga in 1954 as an 18-year-old amateur. And he thought, no, I think I'll stay in the bank for another 6 years. So he did. He was a bank teller for another 6 years after winning it as an amateur. And then he represented New Zealand several times after that. Of course, he then turned pro, and in 1963, he won his first PGA Tour event in the United States, the Houston Classic. And that was the first PGA Tour event ever won by a left-hander. Later that year, he won the Open Championship at Royal Lytham in St Anne's, and that's obviously his main claim to fame. After 4 rounds, his 277 was level with American Phil Rogers, and then he won a 36-hole playoff by 8 shots. He's won about 80 tournaments around the world, as well as his PGA Tour victories, and his win in the 1969 World Match Play Championship was considered one of his best. He won the Senior British Open 30 years after winning the British Open title. Sir Bob Charles is my number 5.
Quite right, and as you say, yes, a very serious man indeed.
He is.
Didn't suffer fools lightly.
No, he's just so straight down the middle, and he talks like that, and his intonation doesn't move at all. It's like, yes, that's a very good putt from him. Yes, it was. Yes, very good.
Quite right. Well, moving across the Tasman for my number 4, he's got the nickname of Popeye. It's Craig Parry, the golfer with the enormous forearms. A great player and a real hard case too. I had the pleasure of meeting Craig Parry many years ago. I don't know if you remember when the New Zealand Open was held at the Paraparaumu Beach Course. This isn't the tournament that Tiger Woods played in. It was before that. And Craig Parry was just a young 20-something-year-old promising golfer from Australia, and he came on, and I was working for the local radio station at the time, and I got to interview him after one of his rounds. And boy, what a hard case. I couldn't get a straight answer out of him, old Popeye. And he had massive forearms on him, and boy, could he hit a ball. And 23 pro wins throughout your career is not a bad effort. Won the Australasian PGA Tour of Merit a couple of times as well. So Craig Popeye Parry is my number 4.
Yeah, not a bad call, mate. Not a bad call. He did have big arms. He also had a big gut, didn't he? I reckon
he did. Towards the end.
He could put a few away. And speaking of big guts and guys that can put a few away, number 4 on my list, John Patrick Long John Daly is my number 4. Of course, he's known as Long John Daly because of his long driving distance. And he's really the antithesis of the non-country club guy, isn't he? He's not that sort of guy. He's had some exceptional performances and some exceptionally controversial incidents as well in his personal life. His 2 greatest on-course accomplishments are his 0-0 victory in the 1991 PGA Championship. This is an amazing story. He was on the reserve to be in the tournament. He got a call the night before saying, "You're in because someone's fallen sick." He jumped in his car, drove 8 to 10 hours to the golf club, picked up his clubs, led after the first round, led after the second round, led after the third round, and won the championship. It was an absolutely amazing performance. It was from absolutely nowhere to a massive hero. And of course, that caused all sorts of problems in his personal life. All of a sudden, he was on all the talk shows. Everyone knew him. Everyone wanted to know him. Everyone was giving him free drinks and all that sort of thing. And that just led to all sorts of problems. And of course, he also won the 1995 Open Championship against Constantino Rocca in the UK. Of course, according to his official performance statistics kept since 1980, Daly in 1997 became the first PGA player to average more than 300 yards a drive over a full season. He did it every year from 1999 to 2008, and he was the only player to do so. He's had issues with alcohol, food, his health, multiple marriages, gambling problems, many business interests. Basically, John Daly is the antithesis of a country club top. He is the everyman golfer who just loves to grip it and rip it. And for that reason, he's my number 4. Long John Daly. Love that man.
Quite right, quite right. Well, he held off a challenge in that 95 tour win from my number 3. A young man who was right at the beginning of his career in 1995. And, of course, 10 years later, the world knew about Michael Campbell. Born in Hawera in 23rd of February 1969. And, he was finished up 3rd in that British Open, I think, behind Daly and Rocker. He'd actually led after 3 rounds.
That's right.
And I remember I was in Palmerston North at the time, staying up all night to watch it, and was really disappointed by the time it came round to the end, because he sort of blew it.
He did a little bit
with a bad final round, and let Daly and Rocker through to secure the title. But yes, that 2005 US Open win, who can forget that? Just an amazing, and he came from a long way behind too to win that tournament from memory.
Yep, qualifying.
Remember going to work that Monday morning thinking, oh no, he's probably out of it now. And when I got to work, there was one of the colleagues was running around going, well done, Michael Campbell. And I'm like, crikey, he won. I should have stayed home.
Nuts, eh?
Absolutely
nuts, mate.
15 Pro Tour wins, and capping off that 2005 US Open win, he was named the Euro Player of the Year in 2005. Sadly, his form dipped away after that 2005 win, and even though he was a regular in those major tournaments in America, he never really recaptured that great form. And of course, after that US Open win, I think he won the match play.
Well, match play.
In the UK not long after. So, yeah, Michael Campbell is number 3 on my top 5 list.
You stole my number 2, mate. Absolutely love that man. Michael Campbell was my number 2. Of course, he's a Maori boy as well, which puts him right up there for me. Ngāti Ruanui on his dad's side, and Ngāruru on his mother's side. He's some Scottish ancestry as well, with a name like Campbell. And he's a great-great-great-grandson of Sir John Logan Campbell, who was the Scottish immigrant to New Zealand. And like you said, he was born in Hawera. He began playing golf at Patea Golf Club, which had the green fence to keep the sheep off them. And he was introduced to the game by his uncle, Roger Ray, but undoubtedly influenced by his family, by his dad, Tom Campbell, who was a single-figure handicapper. And in that 2005 US Open, mate, my gosh, what we need to talk about is how he held off Tiger Woods, because up until that time, no one had held off Tiger Woods. If Tiger Woods was in your rear vision mirror on that last day, he had the red shirt on, everyone just collapsed like a pack of cards. And Michael Campbell, that final round that day, he just never blinked. He played some amazing shots. It was a bloody hard course. I think, what did he finish with? I think he was only like 2 or 3 under for the whole tournament. It was a very, very difficult course. And Woods was undone then himself on the 16th and the 17th by bogeying both of those, and Campbell won by 2 shots. So he actually out-muscled and out-thought Tiger Woods. So Michael Campbell's my number 2. Love Michael Campbell. We'll go to my number 3. Severiano Balasteros is my number 3.
You've stolen my thunder for number 1.
Oh, have I? Is he your number 1? There you go. I know he's probably Martin's number 1 as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a little bit about this guy, because people a little bit younger than us might have never heard of this guy. Severiano Balasteros Sosa is his full name, but everyone just called him Sevi. He was a Spanish professional golfer, world number 1, and he was one of the leading sports figures in the 70s to the mid 90s. He won lots and lots of tournaments. He was a class act. He won 5 major championships, the Open Championship 3 times, the Masters twice, and he was just a class act. He won a record 50 European Tour titles and won at least 1 European Tour title for 17 consecutive years. In 2008, he was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor, and he was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award for the 2nd time at the BBC Sports Personality Awards in 2009, which is quite strange because he's Spanish after all. Which is, that shows what high reverence he was held in by the people in the UK. And he was presented by the award in his home of Spain by his compatriot and former Ryder Cup teammate, Jose Maria Olazabal. Love that name too. Balasteros unfortunately died of brain cancer on the 7th of May, 2011, aged just 54. He was a class act and a hell of a golfer. Seve Balasteros was my number 3.
Yes, well, as I mentioned, he was my number 1, and 6 Euro Order of Merit titles between 1976 and 1991, and 3 times European Player of the Year in 1986, 88, and 91. Yes, very sad loss to the golfing world in 2011 when he passed away, as you said, aged just 54. Just not, I mean, known for being a very good golfer, a great golfer, but also a great personality too. I think he was amongst the many favourites on the golf courses around both Europe and America with, as you said, a number of, 50-something wins in Europe?
50-plus wins, That's the record. 50 European Tour titles. No one's won more.
50 and another 40 around the rest of the world. So 90 professional wins.
Crazy.
For Balasteros. Yeah, great player. And as you say, if young Martin had been on the podcast this morning, I'm sure he would have picked Seve as number 1 as well.
He would have.
My number 2, going back to my number 2, I've gone for another great character on the golf course. He finished playing around the time I started getting interested in sport. But Juan Antonio Chichi Rodriguez is my number 2. Puerto Rican golfer. 8 PGA Tour wins between 1960 and 1985. And from 1986 to 1994, 22 title wins on the senior PGA Tour. But I think the thing that people will remember about Chichi Rodriguez was he always holstered his putter after sinking a putt, like it was a gun. And it
was a sword almost, wasn't it? He was so cool.
Always did the hosting, and a huge character on the PGA Tour, playing against the likes of Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer and Gary Player and all those great golfers from the 60s and 70s. So a real character, and my number 2. Just love him.
I think you picked him more for the name than anything else as well. Once again, you've gone for the name, haven't you? Chichi. We can't do better than that. Well, mate, my one's pretty self-explanatory. Who's number 1? If you were picking your number 1 golfer of all time, this guy would be up there. He'd probably be your number 1, unless you're of this generation, and then you'd probably think Tiger Woods was, but he's nowhere near my top 5. Jack William Nicklaus is my number 1. The Golden Bear. He's widely considered to be the greatest golfer of all time. He won 117 professional tournaments in his career. When you consider winning one professional golf tournament is perhaps the hardest thing in professional sports, to win 117 in your career, it's just Everest-like. Over a quarter century, he won a record 18 major championships, more than the second place, 3 more than Tiger Woods. Of course, he's focused on those majors. A selective schedule of PGA Tour events. He competed in 164 major tournaments, more than any other player, and finished with 73 PGA Tour victories on the thing, which is 3rd behind Sam Snead and Tiger Woods. He won the US Amateur in 1959 and 61 and finished 2nd in the 60 US Open. And I could just keep going on and on and on all through the years. But the one thing that got me, because in 1986, I was 15, I think it was, and my dad was quite a big golf fan, and he told me about Jack Nicklaus, but of course I missed most of it. I was a kid, and in 1986, he won his Masters. He won the Masters for the 4th time, I believe, his 18th and final major championship. At the age of 46, he became the tournament's oldest winner. After golf continued, he developed a thriving golf course design company and created a golf and lifestyle brand that is still very successful today. It's the Golden Bear, making him still one of the most influential people in sport. Golf Incorporated wrote that while the Golden Bear's reign as the most important person in golf is long and unprecedented, the fact that he keeps adding to his legend at the design table and in the business world, despite worldwide course development slowdown, Nicklaus's design firm has over 40 courses in development right now around the globe, and he remains perhaps golf's most respected spokesperson on a wide range of issues. Jack Nicklaus, for when he played the game and after the game as well, he's just a legend all over. the Golden Bear is my number one.
Fine choice indeed with good old the Golden Bear, great golfer. And yes, I remember that 1986 Masters.
Yeah.
It was big news that he was in with a chance on that final day, and I remember watching probably the last 9 holes and just seeing the delight on his face when he finally won that tournament. It was just great television and a great for the Golden Bear. Just on a sad note, non-golfing related, but just a RIP to Chadwick Boseman, who passed away over the weekend. I know he's an actor, but he played the great Jackie Robinson in the movie 42. And the fact that he passed away on the day that MLB was celebrating Jackie Robinson Day. Just lots of coincidences that go on in the world today, and there's just another one. And a great actor, of course, well known for his portrayal in Black Panther. And just a great actor. I've seen him in probably half a dozen movies now, and just brilliant. His portrayal of Jackie Robinson was just amazing, just absolutely.
Mate, how much? That was just such a shock when I first heard it. I thought it was fake news. Then of course it was all on all the sites, and I thought it can't be. The thing was, he didn't tell anyone about his illness, did he?
No,
he was still making movies all the way through to the end. I actually wrote that down as well after us talking about our favourite films last week, and 42. Yeah, that was a cool movie too. I don't even think we mentioned it. There's so many great sporting movies, but rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. And also on last week's top 5. I went through all my top 5, and I noticed that all of my top 5 favourite films all told true stories, which was quite interesting. It just proved to me that sports tell the best stories. You simply can't make up. If you make them up, people don't believe them. But when they're true, they're just So I mean, that's the great thing about sport, isn't it? The stories it tells, the way it holds the attention. It's just you can't make it up, mate. You can't make some of the shit up.
Looking back on my top 5 sports movies, 4 of the 5 were true stories.
See? There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Have you got any honourable mentions as far as your golfers go?
Oh, I mentioned a couple. I mean, you obviously talked about Jack Nicklaus. Arnold Palmer was another great golfer of the 60s and 70s. Gary Player was one growing up as a young fella. I mean, I guess you can't go past Tiger Woods if you're talking purely in great golfing terms. I mean, his run in the late 90s and through the 2000s. Obviously, his game's fallen away a bit now. Of the new crop, Jordan Spieth is a golfer I like watching play, and that's probably a few honourable mentions. Mentioned Olathibol, Sergio Garcia, also good players in their own right.
Sergio Garcia. Sergio. Okay. So I had Arnold Palmer as well. I had Rory McIlroy. I like watching Rory McIlroy, and the fact he's a Scot, so that makes him a good bastard. Ernie Els. Well, he's still a good. He's Celtic. That'll do. Northern Irish, though, isn't he? Northern Irish. Ernie Els, the Big Easy. I like. You used to love watching Ernie Els. I had Tom Watson. Used to like Tom Watson. He was one that could sort of go head to head with the Golden Bear and give him as good as he got. Lee Trevino. Remember that guy?
Yeah. He was a character.
He was a character. He used to go and drink with the caddies afterwards. He said, "No, I'm not going to the country club. I'll go drink with the caddies." Used to like Lee Trevino, and he smoked the cigars on the course too. Payne Stewart, just for the fact he used to wear +4s, and not for the way he went. That rest in peace, poor old Payne Stewart. Sergio Garcia, I had Sergio, and also Bubba Watson, just because he wears his heart on his sleeve and likes to have a bit of a cry now and again. Respect the man that likes to have a bit of a cry now and again. I had a couple of dishonourable mentions. Greg Norman. Just because he choked all the time, and he was just because he choked all the time, and so don't like him. Nick Faldo, just because he was boring and he was slow as a wet week. He was just the slowest golfer. I had Fuzzy Zeller in my dishonourable mentions for his comments at the Masters about the fried chicken. Tiger Woods, just for being a dick off the course. Really, I mean, fantastic golfer. Love watching him play golf. And look, I didn't mind that he went and slipped around, did all that stuff. It's just the way he went after the marketing dollar for the the G-rated marketing dollar when he was doing all that other stuff. So Tiger Woods is on my dishonorable mentions. And also Phil Mickelson. Phil Mickelson, man, that guy. I just don't get that guy. Do you get that guy? Don't get that.
No.
Bet you he voted for Trump too. There you go. That's my dishonorable mention in golf.
Well, we're nearly done for another week, but must be time for a sermon from the mountaintop from the man himself.
Okay, mate. Okay, I'm coming off a long run today. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, Macca. It's an adage that applies as much in sports as it does in everyday life. It's an approach of if everything is going well, then don't change it. Now, I fully understand that during these COVID times, some sports have chosen to play around with the rules and try some new things out with the broadcasting and the crowds, in an attempt to improve the spectacle and the flow. And in these unprecedented times, that's fine. That's unacceptable. Likewise, due to the intolerable schedule pressure caused by the pandemic, bubbles have been created and seasons have been greatly abbreviated to cope. And that too is acceptable in the current world we live in. What isn't acceptable to me is the suggestion from some parts of the sporting media, and indeed yourself last week, Macca, you suggested this, is that when we finally get back to normal, we are obliged to look at making the COVID version the new normal version. Specifically, I'm referencing the Champions League revised format.
I'm just going to interrupt you there for a moment.
No.
I think it was good one-off and would be good as a one-off maybe in the future. I'd never said change that way permanently. I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, okay. Little asterisk. I'll put that there. Specifically referencing the Champions League revised format that I've heard many people say, and even more agree with, that they have loved the new format. One-legged finals format, it gets everything done and dusted more quickly. One location takes away goals out of the equation, puts more jeopardy on the teams to play more attractive attacking football. If they don't, they're out of the tournament. However, removing two-legged home and away ties would also remove one thing that is so key in football, and especially the Champions League, that's tribalism. Having one of the European giants on your home patch is what most play the game for, players and fans. And it's what most fans live for. Traveling to their home stadium for a match against Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, something like that, provides that most unique of sporting experiences. And to just abolish these experiences for a tournament format would be absolute folly. As for the argument that one-legged tournament structure provides better football, well, that can be completely blown out of the water by simply looking at the semi-finals last year and this year. Last year, the drama of Liverpool coming back to beat Barca at home 4-0 after losing 3-0 at the Nou Camp, and Spurs' heroics against Ajax home and away, not even mentioning their quarterfinal drama against City. These were some of the most dramatic football matches I've ever witnessed, precisely because of the home and away format, and they far outweighed the 3-0 semi-finals we had this year. If we need to play around with the format of the Champions League, maybe we should look more to slightly altering the group stages, limit the amount of teams qualifying from each country or something else like that to ease the schedule pressure. Thankfully, though, because of the amount of money two-legged ties make for UEFA, it's unlikely that it will be changing to the tournament option. And for once, I'm on the money men's side. So for slightly different reasons than them, I'm all for the drama, the tactics, the jeopardy, the excitement, and the best meeting the best at home and away to determine the biggest prize in club football. The Champions League ain't broke, so don't try and fix it, Megan.
Well, I agree with everything you've said. As I said, it was a good one-off tournament, and maybe every 4 or 10 years, just doing it as a one-off. But yeah, I was never in favour of having that full time.
You did. Yeah, I heard you last week, mate. We can go back. We'll rewind the tape. Rewind the tape. Look, mate, the whole thing is, I mean, you can't take away the home and away ties, can you?
Oh, absolutely.
Like I say, if you want to condense it, you condense it. The finals, a standalone one-off event. It's like the Super Bowl. But the home and away ties, it's just the best. I love the drama of it. Allowing a comeback, the comeback from last year, just phenomenal.
It wasn't just Liverpool semi-final either. Tottenham came back to beat Ajax in that semi-final.
And in their quarterfinal. Remember the quarterfinal against Manchester City.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I just don't think you can take that away. So thankfully, the money men will have the say, and they'll just say, no, we're making too much money out of this. We'll keep it as it is, and that's fine with me.
Yes, I'm also hoping that the Premier League go back to just 3 substitutions next season. I think when you have the ability to change pretty much almost half your team or half of your outfield team, it's just changing the game too much. And I mean, it's great having 2 or 3 impact players coming into the game, but have 5, you're changing the game too much.
Yeah, they did say during that, Martin Tyler did say during the commentary of the Charity Shield that the Premier League have agreed to take it back down to 3 for next season. So that is good as far as I'm concerned as well. It just gives too much of an advantage to the bigger sides as well. I mean, we support Liverpool by all means. You know, we got superstars on the bench. Yeah, bring on 5, but it's not really fair, is it?
No, absolutely.
You know?
And yes, only 2 weeks to go until the Premier League season kicks off again, with Liverpool hosting Championship winners Leeds. That's going to be a cracking game to start the season.
Can't wait for that one, mate. Can't wait. Is it at Anfield or Ellen Road?
It's Anfield.
Okay. My gosh. Probably an empty Anfield. Are they actually? I did see something out where they released the crowds. Have you seen that? The maximum amount of people?
Brighton played Chelsea over the weekend, and they did allow, I can't remember the number of fans.
I think it's 10%. Yeah, I think it's 10% of the stadium. So obviously Manchester United will get the biggest. I mean, Liverpool with a stadium of around 50,000, probably 5,000 people there, which will be good. Good, get some people in there. You know, when you see the beaches,
quite right.
Why can't people go to sports? You know, it's crazy.
Well, that brings the Hot Air Sports podcast to another end. We're having a week off next week.
We are having a week off.
A grand tour of the South Island. So, we'll be back in a couple of weeks around the 16th or 17th of September, which by memory is a big day for you, Aaron, the 17th of September.
Day for you as well, I think, Ian, isn't it?
Could very well be. Could very well be.
That's right. I think I could be turning 21 again for about the 32nd time, mate.
21 again for the 29th time.
Oh, 29. See, maths.
Yeah.
That's why I do a sports podcast, mate.
Quite right. Oh, well, on that note, it's good afternoon from me.
It's a good morning from him.
Hello. Goodbye.